Penguin Random House Audio presents Little Disasters by Randall Klein. Read for you by Mark Deakins and Kirby Heyborne.
Michael Gould. Present day, July 19th, 2010. 7:45 a.m. Jennifer Sales and I are a terrible idea. The two of us together is like touching a stove to see if it's hot, or cutting through the park at night, or eating strange, ripe berries straight off the bush. We're that moment right before the world becomes catastrophic, when we are more alive than we have ever been or ever will be again, and we embrace our commitment to the bad idea, because that's the idea that makes perfect sense. I've learned this lesson, step by heavy uphill step, trees sagging wearily around me, looming over the paved path as if in judgment. I've learned this on a quest up to the entrance of the Cloisters, a fortress of an art museum located at the northern tip of Manhattan, about as far across the city from my sliver of Brooklyn as one can get. I slipped out this morning when the sun was just starting to come up, and the temperature was still merciful. I waited on the platform with men in uniforms, security guards, orderlies, janitors. These are the men who ride the subway before rush hour, who sit and catch a few minutes of sleep, narcolepsy by necessity, their heads hitting their chests the instant the doors close, some global positioning alarm clock springing them awake when the train rolls into their stations. I hunkered down, sipped milky bodega coffee, people watched, voyaged north and farther north, people coming on, people getting off, the hourglass swell of riders crowding the train, then dwindling more and more as we zipped our way up until there was no one getting on, only people departing. And then we arrived at 207th. Blocks go that high in Manhattan. I started searching for the park, walking through a neighborhood that woke and stretched as I passed. We chose the Cloisters because neither of us had ever been. We have ignored this guidebook staple, full of medieval art and tapestries. It's an intimidating stone building in the middle of a park, the type of place that might have been besieged by dragons in another time. When I get to an entrance to the park and look up at the distant edifice of the Cloisters, I realize immediately that Jenny is not going to meet me up there. She's not going to want to walk through the park and up this hill in the humidity and rising heat. I check my phone. It's already 88 degrees, and the sun has been out for maybe an hour. But we agreed. If I'm not waiting at one of those entrances in 15 minutes, and there is the skin of her teeth chance that she is, I'm pretty much fucked. And so, uphill. 8 a.m. My phone tells me it's 90 degrees. The air saps moisture from every pore, leaves me drenched in sweat. When Jenny gets here, we'll stroll for a bit and laugh about this, work a shower into wherever the rest of our day takes us. Now that we'll have been to the Cloisters, I can't see us ever coming back. It's beautiful. There's a view of the Hudson through trees, winding paths for hand-holding, but this will be, at best, a place we take our kids once. It's too far from everything. One day we'll pack a picnic, rent a car by the hour, and take Lil Vasily or wee Austin up to see where Mom and Dad committed to one another once and for all. My breath stinks sour of coffee, and I plan to kiss her when she arrives, so I smoke a cigarette to balance out the taste. Jenny is supposed to be here by now, but she hasn't been on time to a single thing in her entire life. I'll need to work on that with her, subtly and without eliciting resentment, or I'll have to learn to live with it. Today isn't about punctuality, though. Today isn't about the people we'll become. That sounds pedantic in my own head. I'll need to revise that in case it's something I say out loud to her when she finally does arrive. 8:30 a.m. I check my watch, wondering what route she took to get here. Leaving the apartment this morning, opening the front door and stepping into the stairwell and closing the door behind me, testing the knob to make sure it's locked, hearing the neighborhood around me still but for the drone of cicadas and the distant belly rumble of truck noise, I thought it would all be more difficult. I thought I would leave some part of myself behind, but it wasn't, and I didn't. I have a grasp of what I have done and cannot undo. That's on my mind, still sitting here waiting for Jenny. But it doesn't feel like loss. It doesn't feel like the pains of a phantom limb callously discarded in Red Hook. At some point in the future, I'll stare forward blankly and let my mind wander into every hidden room of the past, to the black, rotted core of exactly what I've done. How I became the villain. But if I feel anything now, still waiting for Jenny, it's resolute. I made my choices, and now come the ramifications. I can deal with those. Before that fall, though, come so many gorgeous moments. Shared secrets, shared joys, shared sins. It's entirely possible that Jenny is at some other entrance, waiting patiently for me as I do for her, anticipating the same lateness, though my slavish devotion to punctuality would suggest otherwise. Give me 6 months to live, and rather than bargain with God, I'd throw myself into traffic to meet the deadline early. Jenny knows this about me. I take out my phone and find her in my contacts. There she is, one of many, but her name may as well be encircled in neon. Hey, love, I'm staring at a castle and waiting to kiss the sweat on your shoulders. You close? And 10 minutes later, that happy chirp. I couldn't. Michael, I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. Just like that, I'm running through the park, downhill, away from the cloisters, where I had never been before, and where meeting Jennifer Sayles was a lovely idea that made no sense whatsoever. Michael Gould. 1 year ago, July 18th, 2009. I'm smiling, grinning, really, deeply in love with my life and all that the day holds. And the smell of freshly baked cookies, always the smell of freshly baked cookies, enveloping me like a straitjacket. The egg timer beeps. Rebecca waddles into the kitchen. The timer is one of those magnetic models that leaches onto the fridge and, when it hits 0, starts counting upward, so irresponsible bakers can see how many seconds they've let something overcook. Rebecca is not an irresponsible baker. That electronic whistle, like a homing device, draws her to the oven from anywhere in the apartment. Why she takes the extra step of turning off the timer before reaching into the oven, I don't know. She could just as easily flip the process. That's not exactly true, or it's more kind than accurate. Rebecca turns it off first to emphasize that she didn't fuck up, that another perfect batch cooked not a second longer than her handwritten recipe instructed. I can't say the same for our son, who is late by 2 weeks. Rebecca had designs on July 4th. A fireworks baby, she said, as if that's a thing. It's now July 18th, her own egg timer beeping shrill as the seconds mount up, and her doctor wants to get this little bun out of the oven. Our son will share a birthday with Nelson Mandela, I say, impressed. Also, Harriet Nelson, Hunter S. Thompson, Screamin' Jay Hawkins. I scroll through a few more names, debate whether to add Hume Cronin to the list. Oh, also Mein Kampf was published in 1925.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?